Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, mic check. Is this thing on? What up, what up, what up? It's Tim's Tuesday. We back. Another episode. What up, what up, what up? Welcome in, welcome in. It's Tim's Tuesday. Let's go ahead and start tapping that screen. Let's wait till some of our friends get in here. What up, Kingston? What up, what up, what up? It's Tim's Tuesday, episode 9. Only got one more episode after this one for season 1, man. We made it. What up, what up, what up? Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome to Tim's Tuesday, episode 9. Tim stands for This Is My Story. And in this series, what's good, Kingston? In this series, I interview people and learn about their story as a way for us to learn from each other. Through the stories, we actually come to find out and learn that we ain't the only ones going through something. And we get to learn that some people have been through already what we're going through right now, and through that we could learn and we could grow. So we do this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're on episode 9. Happy to be here. What's good, what's good? Say what's up to each other in the chat. Mr. Cheese, what up? G the Beautiful's in here. What's up, G? Yo, shout out to Mr. Cheese for creating this logo for me. I had to figure out a way to advertise it, show it on here. This is my story, Tim's Tuesday. Shout out to Mr. Cheese for that. I appreciate you, man. Yep. So while we're in here waiting for the rest of our friends to get up in here, I want to shout out my kind of do a little drop from my link tree that's in my bio, which will get you to my YouTube page, my Instagram, where you guys can follow and subscribe to those other social media handles. It also has my Amazon wish list on there for supporters. You want to support the show. And also my Cash App. If you want to send a little support directly to me, you could do it that way. All gifts are welcomed on here. You know, we do have a live goal. So feel free to help with that. Otherwise, no donations or contributions are required, but are always appreciated. So appreciate you guys. Definitely got to take the time to shout out the subscribers. Really appreciate you guys. You know, we do have a goal for that as well. We got goals, baby. We're trying to get there. We're at 6 and we're trying to get to 15. So let's make it happen. That's my favorite part of that drop. All right, so let's tap that screen. Let's tap the screen. We're at 267 likes right now. Let's get up to 1,000. That'll be our first goal. I got a real cool special guest today. I don't typically interview people who are hosts as well, but I really thought that it would be cool to interview somebody else that also, you know, hosts a live show as well. So that's the person I'm going to be bringing up shortly. We're trying to get these likes up, get some more people in here. Let's run up the likes today, man. Let's really get this thing going. Let's get some people in here. Get as many people in here today so that we set up for our season finale next week. Trying to go out with a bang, you know. Committed to doing 10 episodes for season 1, and we're on episode 9 today. So thank you all for the likes. I appreciate you guys tapping the screen. Don't forget to share it out. Send it to a couple people, 2-3 people, 5, 10, 15. You know the max is 15. Let's share it out. But okay, we already broke 1,000. Let's go. Yo, shout out to Kingston, Mr. Cheese G the Beautiful. Real Talk with Ruby. I see you in here. What's going on, Boricua Mommy 88? Welcome in, welcome in. We getting this thing going in just a minute here. Waiting for a few more people to show up, and then we're gonna get it popping. I'm in a great mood today. Hello, hello. All right, we're gonna get started in just a minute. I see we at 1.7. I know we're about to crack 2,000 in no time. So, like I said, so today's is a great. Got a great episode lined up for you guys. Normally I don't host with someone else who already hosts a show, but I thought it would be cool to see, this person's journey. I feel like this would be a great way for me to learn, about what I got going on and what I'm trying to do with my series. So I feel like this would be a great learning experience for both of us to be able to share stories and just kind of, talk about what we do. So without further ado, I'm going to send my invite to my guest. See if we could get them up here. All right, invite sent. Let's run it back a little bit. A little bit of music. There we go. Hey, you did that with no problem. There you go.
But I don't know what happened to that. Am I gonna do like something to play with it?
The camera is kind of like when you tap the screen, sometimes it'll go off. So like once you get settled, then it's like good to go. Oh, did you get booted? That was quick. All right, let's make sure she could get back on. I see Crystalina here. What's up, Crystal? We'll give her a minute to get back. I don't know what happened, if it was like a connection issue, but technology, we're going to work with it. What's good? Did I see Jess in here? I was trying to see if she was in here. I don't know what happened, but you're back.
What happened?
What's up?
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's nothing new. We already know that happens. Can you hear me okay, though?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Cool. Yes, I'll just making sure that my headphones are all the way up and I can hear you good. How many boxes? So just so you know, I know we're going to see the comments going off. Typically, I'll take a little like 10 to 15 minutes, maybe toward the end of the episode, to address comments and if anybody has questions or anything like that. So for now, for the next whatever amount of time that we get into the interview, I'll be focused on you, and I'll let the mods and everybody else kind of communicate and have conversation in the comments.
Hello.
So yeah,
Thank
we
you
could
for the
take a second. So
compliment.
what's up?
Christine, is it Kristen? Kristen. So I cannot see the actual people's names, so it's really hard for me to.
Yeah. That's honestly, that's one of the reasons why I don't take too much time to focus on the comments in the beginning, and I take time at towards the end to address up, say what's up, and any questions or anything like that. But my first question is always pretty straightforward, and it's pretty much what brought you to TikTok. Why are you on the TikTok platform?
Well, good question. And first of all, thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it. And for whoever's watching right now, my name is Ruby. I actually started influencing over a year ago. So my niece is actually a pretty big TikToker on here. She's all about the beauty and the lashes. She has her own lash line. So she has a good 16,000 followers. Ooh, so she kept telling me like, I'm sorry?
Tell her to share.
Yeah, I know. I would think she would help me out more since she's my niece, but she doesn't really do it. But she wants to promote her stuff. But you know what? These young kids.
Yep.
So she's like, Aunt Ruby, you're like, I think you're bigger than what you've already accomplished at the other street, like the other platform. You need to come to TikTok. And for me, being almost 47, I felt like when I first discovered TikTok, I felt like it was for the young generation. Right. So I was like, what am I going to do? I'm a woman of a particular age that has, in-depth conversations, not to take away from the young ones, but my conversation's a lot different than someone that's in their 20s.
Right.
So I'm like, no, it's not really my lane. And so I tried my, hello, thank you for the compliments. And so she's just like, just try it. And so when I came on here, I was completely lost. I'm like, okay, everyone's lip singing. Everyone's doing trends. Even since I was in school, I was popular in school. So I don't want to get back into high school. And I feel like social media can be very, very intertwined with back into high school. You have to follow the cliques, the gangs, the families. You have to do certain things. And so I've always been a person in my own lane. So I was like, you know what? let me show a different side that I cannot see as a live influencer, as a person that does a talk show. So
Okay.
you see this all the time, but I'm like, you know what? I used to be a dance instructor, so like I can show my dancing abilities. I used to write poetry, so I can write poetry content on here. I love fashion. I love all these things. So I'm like, well, TikTok is now giving me that platform to show other sides, but it's also it's so I'm using it like, okay, let me use visuals to capture followers, but then hopefully my brain and my sense of humor captures a whole different side of people to see like, wait, she's beyond the dance moves and trying to be cute, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty
Mhm.
much what brought me to TikTok. Is my niece is 22 years old. So here I am now on my very first semi live, but my first time going on a live with another. Here I
Okay.
am.
And that it's funny because I have a similar story where for me coming to TikTok, I have children and they are all over TikTok and they're doing these trends. My nephew, my niece, they're all doing these things, and I thought the same thing. I was like, this is just for kids. As I started to use it myself to kind of monitor what they were doing, a lot of the videos and content that I was getting was appropriate for me. And I was like, is this what they're getting? Then I learned that TikTok has the algorithm and it puts in front of you what you like. So I like that. And then the more that I was at that time, I was already planning to do like a podcast or something along those lines. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I think TikTok might be a way to help get people to listen to it. But then I saw these lives. I started, the more I was on here, I would fall into like people's lives and just kind of watch what they were doing. And I'm like, some people, they have the background and they have the mic and they're treating their lives like a podcast. And I was
Right.
like, maybe that's something that I could do. So I kind of, started to just grow the following, similar to you, posting different type of content. I'm also into fashion. I write a lot of different things. I like the comedy stuff. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll play around with some of those things, do some of the trending things just to get people to the page. And from there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this show a shot. So here we are doing, Tim's Tuesday. So very similar story. So I like that it aligns in that way as well. So now
Well,
that you're,
congratulations also to
yeah,
finishing your very first season. That's
thank you.
amazing.
Yeah, we made it this far. I mean, it was a little bit of a push from the people that are on here that I've met through TikTok that are amazing people. And as well, my girlfriend saying, you've been talking about it, just do it, like go. And they kind of pushed me on a Monday. They were like, tomorrow's Tuesday. What are you gonna do? You've been talking about this Tuesday thing. Are you gonna do it? And I'm like, all right, let's go. So, but you actually mentioned something that stuck out to me because I was in a similar situation. You mentioned how TikTok has like a little bit of a click and like family and all these like different things. Um, I'm assuming it wasn't the greatest experience in that way. Did you experience some of that? I don't know, negative or positive. Either way, it could be both ways. But
Okay.
what was your
So you
experience with that?
opened a door that I'm going to throw myself into. So one
so,
thing
so
I always try to ask
again,
is
if any questions are asked that you don't feel comfortable answering, by no means
no,
do you have to.
I
But
think that's one of my problems, but I'm okay with it because that's
okay,
why I do call my show Real Talk with Ruby. I'm pretty effing real. Like I don't have a filter, and there's nothing that you're going to ask or assume that's going to offend me. My biggest thing is I'm entitled to not answer anything I don't want to. So instead
absolutely,
of one thing I learned as an influencer is I would get asked questions that I either felt offensive, I felt that they were inappropriate. So I would always tell people at one point, don't ask me stupid questions. I had to step back and realize, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't stupid to them. So worded it or saying, if you ask me something that I don't think is irrelevant to me, move on. So
okay.
where I don't offend anyone. So I always try to say as a disclaimer, whatever I say, I'm not out here to disrespect anyone, put anyone down. I have my own mind. And so going to your question is coming into a live streaming situation or as an influencer. I actually do carry the name as an influencer. So I never wanted to rely on anyone. I didn't want to have a handout and so forth. So on the other platform that I was on, I was gaining followers very rapidly. I didn't know anything about it. It was during COVID. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what a live stream was. That's how naive I was to the whole live streaming.
Okay.
So I went on there. I would sit on my couch. Did not look anything like this. I would be on my couch, just like, hey guys, okay, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you do? Why are you watching me? Like, stupid. I just look stupid, basically. And so when I started getting the hang of it, Because again, I used to be a dance instructor, so I used to do productions. I used to have to do routines in front of sometimes hundreds and thousands of people. So I'm like, I was never afraid of a crowd, but because I knew that was what I was good at. So coming into this, my numbers started growing very rapidly. And at the time when I entered the other platform, the people that started following me that are actually had been on there longer were like maybe 1, 2, 3,000 followers, where I was already jumping up to almost 10,000 followers in a 6 month time frame. And so by the time before I even hit a year, I was almost at 17,000 followers. But before that, because of kind of you said the out everywhere, but because my numbers are increasing, you start getting the top badges, the big ones that were bigger than you. Like, who is this girl that came out of nowhere? And why does she have all these followers? So then you would get these families, cliques, whatever you want to call them, and say, hey, I want you to join us or be part of our clique, be part of our family. And I guess it took me
And
back to high school again.
this is on that other platform, not here on
Yes.
TikTok. Okay, okay.
Not so far here because I'm pretty much a no name right now. I have very few followers, but it's kind of like well, I'll take that back. I've had two people come at me that are different families because they see that I dance, so they're dance groups. Which again,
Okay.
I've always said, you know what, I'm going to kindly just decline, but thank you for the offer, but I still want to support whatever you have going on your social media.
Got it.
So um but I was actually just having a conversation with a very top badge of that other platform that no longer is a top badge. She removed herself. She deactivated her account. She's somewhere else. So her and I actually had a conversation for the first time. She was kind of like someone that I looked up to because she's been doing it for 12 years. She's been on many platforms. She's traveled all over the world doing what she does. So when I noticed I started turning people down is when I started getting the reports.
Uh,
And it was just like the negativity came in and I would get DMs of like, we're going to destroy you. We're going to make sure that you get removed from this platform. We're going to make up lies about you. We're going to do hate. It was just so dark, but I never let it get to me. It made me again feel like I was in high school. I'm like, look, I don't need validation to be popular. I would like validation that I'm putting a smile on your face. You learned something from me. I learned something from you. That's the validation that I want. Whether
right.
it's not really even the numbers, because I can have a mass amount of numbers, but just like a show right now, like when I go into live stream, I don't look at just the numbers for the most part. I look at the interaction. So like
Right.
so just, if you want to just a little tidbit from you, or if you want to use this for you as on your thing, every week, every time I do a show, I give out someone that's a new follower and that's interacting. I give a standout follower of each stream. Like, thank you for being stand up my stream. You came in here, you were positive, you were interactive with my stream. So I've learned. And so when I did not follow these families, my account got permanently banned until 2091, and I was already at 17,000 followers. So now I had to
Wow.
redo my whole thing and get a new account, which I'm barely over 600 followers on the new account after that one got banned for all that time. So yes, there
Wow.
is, but I know that you and I had a conversation away from this stream, and so I'm which I'm doing with you. I'm actually like, you know what? I don't want to punish everyone. There isn't always bad people with bad intentions.
Right. Yep.
So I'm on your page. Hopefully, I get to meet some of more of your amazing people.
Yeah,
Um,
man. We have a
oh,
great
thank you,
group of
thank you,
people.
Jared.
We have a great group
Yeah.
of people that overall like, and it's funny because like for me, I've never experienced that. Any form of social media that I've interacted with previously was always people that I knew in real life. So I never really had that issue, that type of experience. But here on TikTok, um, through growing and meeting people, and that was always my intention, was to get kind of outside of my bubble and outside of the circle of people that I know personally. So I started expanding, following people, and again, I came across lives, and then I started to understand, oh, you need 1,000 followers to get, to go live. So okay, I'm gonna need to really interact and network and interact with people. So in doing so, I got to meet some really cool people. But some of those people were part of different groups and circles, and I call them bubbles because algorithm somewhere that there's these little clusters of people that have a lot of similar things in common, so they put them in an area, so they have to cross paths. So in doing that, I kind of started to feel like, man, these are, like you said before, it's similar to high school, man. A lot of these people that are grown adults, like they're acting like the drama is what they're here for, and I'm not here for that. Like that was never my intention. So I started to kind of pull away a little bit. sticking to the my family, literally my girlfriend and my sister, just like it's just us now. Like from here on, it's just gonna be us. And then again, we felt our situation again, and trying to be like hopeful that this is gonna be the one, this is gonna work. Um, but what I'm learning now is it just kind of comes down to you got just got to be mindful. Treat each person individually. Kind of
Right.
you can't
Hmm.
kind of accept everyone that's associated with one person and just say, okay, everybody you're with is cool. I kind of look at it now like we could kind of see some people as friends, right? The same way that we meet people in real life, we meet some people and like, oh, that's my acquaintance. And in other cases, you're like, oh, that's my friend. And in other people you become family, like, and you got to kind of take each person individually and treat each one and separately, and don't associate anybody with anybody else, sort of, no matter how close they are. Like, that's just a lesson that I've learned here. But since then, I could say that the people that are probably in this live now, people who have reached out, or lives that I've been on, there's a lot of really good people. A lot, like, as many people that could say that there's bad things on TikTok, there's a lot of good as well. So I would definitely encourage you to continue to reach out to people, meet people, go on other people's
Yeah, most
lives and things like
definitely.
that. That's a great way to grow your following. And then also, because I know that actually, so just so people know, and you actually came up on my For You page one day while I was scrolling, and then I
Oh,
saw like the Real Talk with Ruby, and I'm like, oh, this is somebody else that does a show similar to me. So I started to follow you there, and then I checked out some of your
which I
videos, and I was like,
appreciate.
oh, I checked out some of your videos. Oh, thank you for the subscribe. Shout out to the subscribers. But no, so I actually checked out your videos, and I was like, oh, you do like dance content, and I see. I think the actual video that I saw was like, I'm moving my show over to TikTok. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, this existed somewhere else, and that's kind of what happened with this series. I started this
Hmm.
series a few years ago. I don't even remember how long ago it was now, on YouTube. um but my intention was always to be interactive. The problem with YouTube is that I was shooting the content in my house or whatever, and then I was posting it with no, it was missing this human component of it. And then I did a couple episodes, and a couple people that knew me would like message me, or email me questions and be like, "Oh, can you talk about this next week? Can you talk about this?" So again, it was always after the fact, and it was like the people who I was answering, I don't even know if they're watching it. I don't know if they're getting the information. I have to send it to them. So again, when this came about, it was like I wanted to do a podcast. Then I was like, "Oh, the live. There is the human interaction that I'm looking for." And then now it's like perfect, because as I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, the people watching, and then I take this video and I post it to YouTube, and now it's there and people get to see the interaction as well. So it gets to exist there as well now. So yeah.
Well, and I totally agree. I'm in the same thing because I'm like, well, I don't want to just talk to myself. Like nobody knows. I'm gonna go to YouTube with 40 subscribers. Like really, like
Yeah.
they're not gonna see me. So I'm gonna be talking to myself like I'm some crazy lady. So that's how I felt about just doing the live stream. Which again, like you said, besides not having a microphone, I do my thing where I'm sitting in a chair, I'm asking questions, and we keep it on my show, we keep it at one topic. So
Okay.
everyone that comes in can start just interacting with what we're talking about. It's not like 15 different topics going on at the same time.
Oh, that's cool.
So I like that there's a revolving box. But see, I actually tried doing what you're doing here, which one, congratulations again, because I commend you. It's hard to
Thank you.
get someone to commit to
Right.
because that was my goal when I first started Real Talk with Ruby last June with 15th with my launch. So I'm on. Of course, I've had a lot of gaps and personal things that I've exposed on my live stream dealing with mental health. You have your breaks and having a regular job as well. So I mean, I just celebrated, which I thought was pretty cool, episode 30 this past Thursday. So I was like,
That is
okay,
awesome.
but so I like the
Clap it up.
interaction. Oh.
Clap it up for that. No, but that
So
30
yeah,
is
I love the
that's
interaction where
awesome.
I'm actually speaking to someone and getting things. And I honestly like my biggest thing again, yes, I do it and I will put it out here because again, I don't sugarcoat nothing. Yes, this is a job for me. Me doing what I do, it's one of my jobs. I have a regular 9 to 4, well, not 9 to 5, but I work for Victoria's Secret. But this is something that I have passion for. I'm like, hey, you hear about these stories that people, this is what they do. They stop their actual jobs.
Yep.
Even people that I know that were doctors and lawyers and CEOs, this is what they do, and this is their bread and butter.
Hmm.
So I am putting the work. And again, I don't want to knock anyone's hustle. Whatever you do to make money on these live streams, kudos to you. But
Yeah.
for me, speak for myself and say, I want to bring substance. And I hope that when someone's watching me, if you think I'm cute, great. I'm still rocking it for 40, almost 47 years old. That's great for me. But I want you to go beyond that and say, you know what, this girl actually has a damn brain. And she actually, I learned something from her and vice versa.
Right.
So I want to have that interaction with somebody speaking back to me and getting that whole face to face. So when I tried doing this in the beginning, which is the girl that I was talking about earlier, that no longer is on that platform. So I was running with my head off because she hadn't confirmed, kind of like what she did with me, like in this confirm, because I was already making videos and promos about her, tagging her and having a picture of her and all this. And I literally, which my number one follower is actually right now in our live. His name is Jarek. He's been with me from the very beginning. He was the one
Wow.
that told me,
Shout out to Jared.
again, being real, that you can make money on doing stuff like this. I had no idea. And my first response was, with my clothes on? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay, how? Because I want to keep
Yeah.
my clothes on.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, so he's been with me from day one. So when I was that first day that kind of what you said, if you don't put it out there, because I kept saying, real talk is coming soon. They did the same thing they did to you. Like, okay, when, Ruby? You went from February to March to April. We're here in May now. When is
They're
it?
like,
When
let's
is your launch
go.
date? So
Let's go.
yes. So I did January the 15th, and it was friendship was the topic. So she did not confirm with me until 10 minutes that I was going live. Mind you, I've been promoting for about 2 weeks her video. So I'm like, I don't know if I want that stress. I don't feel like I have that commitment from other people yet. So I commend you again. That's what my goal in reality is to have a guest every week, promo videos, but also to allow others that want to come in here and have a conversation as well. Beyond the guest, it's actually my weekly guest.
Yeah, so
So it's a
yeah,
lot of work.
I would definitely say that if you have, if you're like me and you have to schedule your things, like this is one of the reasons why I do this when I do it is because I have to schedule things. Like I have a very busy schedule. I have a life. So but the one thing, as I confirmed with you this morning, and every other guest who's been on the show, they know I confirmed the morning of, because I don't release my promo video until the day of, for reasons similar to your situation, is that things come up and people have other things or whatever, they change their mind, whatever it is. And I get it. I've had to do that before, but one thing for me is like, I'm going to make sure that I give you enough space and like, the opportunity to feel comfortable in coming on here. Because again, to me, like you kind of put it, it's that commitment, and for someone to give me that commitment, I respect it so much. Like I'm so big on like respecting people's time. If you tell me a specific time, like I'm going to be there. If you tell me, hey, can we meet for 10 minutes? I might have to only give you 10 minutes because that's kind of sometimes what it is, but I'm going to give you my undivided attention for 10 minutes. Um, and honestly, that it's just a thing for me. Like we really don't, we could have physical things and we could have, all the money in the world, but time is something we never get back, no matter what,
I
you can't get it
agree.
back. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, you want to have this type of thing, but I will say that, a great way here especially is just getting comfortable with going live, and then sometimes even going live on other people's page. Again, that's where you start to really get that trust, and I feel like for me, some of the people I've interviewed here are people that I know personally, some people I met through
Mhm,
TikTok, and then some people I've never met before, like us in this case right now. We've had one conversation technically before this. um
mhm.
but I just thought it would be cool because I feel like I could learn something from you when again I came across your page and reached out. So no, I think that's really cool that that is a goal, and it's cool that you started without the person. Like at some point you could have just been like, you know what, I was gonna do this, where I'm not gonna do this anymore, forget it. But it evolved into something else, and that's something too that I've learned from doing this series so far, is that a lot of what people start out, like what their plan is and what their whole intention is, like I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna do all these things, and then even once they start, it starts to evolve into something completely different. So I think it's cool
Mhm.
that you had the plan to do one thing and then you didn't let it stop you, and it just let it evolve into what it was supposed to be. So I think that's really cool.
Well, thank you. And it isn't easy. It's so funny. It's before I would again say I was a live or influencer. My best friends would joke about it. They were like, "Really? excuse my language, but they were like, really, bitch, who's gonna watch you? Like, you're not that interesting, you know?
Right.
You're cute, but it's not that serious kind of thing. And I'm like, I guess, I don't know. But when I started saying, oh my God, I made this amount of money, or like, hey guys, I'm gonna treat you, I just got cashed out. They're like, from what? I'm like, from my live stream. They're really paying you? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, and now they're like, hey, how was your show? What's your next topic? I'm like, oh, okay.
Now
So
you're
it's
interested.
like, and I got it because I would think the same thing when I first started doing this. I'm like, who is watching this person eat Fritos? Like, I
Right.
mean, some of the stuff that people watch, it still is mind blowing. And I'm thinking, like, should I change my dynamics and not be a positive speaker and just eat Cheetos and have thousands of followers? Like, what do I do? But again, I'm a spiritual person and I love to feel like I have substance I'm offering. So it's like, just like another little story is yes, the money does help. Of course, I still have a regular job. I'm not making the money to go and quit and say, you know what, I'm going to be on here all the time.
Right.
But the most gratifying thing, and this is not me being like political answer and a cheesy response, but when I would get the messages in my DMs, people from all over the country is like, when you go on, I have something to look forward to, or
Right.
I don't have any friends or family, and the fact that you even, the biggest thing was for when I would just acknowledge somebody's name and I would get a DM like no one even acknowledged me when I go on other people's streams. I'm like, are you joking? Like just small things like that that said, hey, you know what? You put a smile on someone's face just by whatever you said you did is the most gratifying feeling. The getting the money is icing on the cake. But
Right.
if I
Right.
didn't get all that feeling, because at the end of the day, especially women, especially if you look a certain way, you don't need to have no gratification because if you have a nice body, you want to show it off, you got OnlyFans to do that. So to me, I wanted more depth again. Like,
Right.
so
I think
that
I
to
think
me
that's
is
cool too.
what's
Like,
pushing me to continue after some of these mishaps of getting my last, profile banned or
yeah.
until 2091, which I don't think any of us are going to be alive in
You got
2091,
some time. I
right?
think
I'm going to be like 80,000 years old. Like, no, I'm going to be
I
in a wheelchair, barely speaking. I'll just be typing.
I'm looking at or kind of like the way you're explaining the situation for you that you had this thing going again, even just being able to like get shut down in one way, and then just say, you know what, I'm gonna try it somewhere else then, like not giving up there. Like it was one thing to start, and then it's another thing to keep going, right? Because that I would say for sure it's very frustrating. Even here on TikTok, the first, I want to say it took me like roughly 2 weeks when I started to take TikTok really serious. Like, oh, I really want to go live. Like, I'm gonna try to do this. Took me 2 weeks the first time to get to 1,000. The second time, because I saw the group that I was kind of talking about earlier, the first group that I was introduced to here, a bunch of them got like, we call it banana, like where you couldn't come live, right? They lost their access, and it was like, yo, what if that happens to me? Like I just got my access, like, and and some of them didn't even know why it happened. So I remember like, okay, I gotta make sure I create a backup now. I started seeing people with multiple backup accounts, so I'm like, let me do that now so that I don't, if one day that happens to me, I have it. So the second account took me a week, and it was basically because I'm promoting that I have a second account on the main page. But it's funny because this account that I'm using now is actually started as my backup. But it was so weird because I kind of met like a whole new group of people on this page, and I was like, you know what? I like this people, the content that I'm seeing, and everything else. So I continued with this page. Um, so I just think it's really interesting though, like the fact that you started, you didn't allow it to just knock you down, and you're like, whatever, I'm done with this. I also like that you point out about how your friends, and I want you to maybe talk about that a little bit, the transition for your friends going from, not supporting you. I think a lot of people, when they set a goal and then they don't get the immediate, response from the people that, that they love and that love them and care about them, sometimes it's like, damn, you know what? They're right. I shouldn't do this. But in your case, you continued, you pushed past it, and you started to see them kind of change their mind. What was that like for you?
Um, I mean, they still clown me a little bit, especially when I do like when they see like my little videos and like, oh, you're not putting a music video on. Like, what do you think you are? Like, they'll still clown, but it's more like I can tell that they see I have a good time. You know, it's kind of like I think for me, I know again, I'm always open. You can agree to disagree, but I think in reality, beyond social media, our main validation, and I hate to say, but it is the reality of it. Anything that we do, the biggest validation we can get is, are we making money?
Right.
Point blank,
Yeah.
right? But then after that, it's like, well, do you like what you do? And then, of course, the next step for me is like, do your close circle support what you do? So now that they're into it, or, not so much involved because they don't really stream whatever. Because, I mean, I am pretty much who I am off the stream, but it's just still like it's not like I'm having interviews. So when I'm speaking to my friends, I'm not like, so what was your day like? So are you, it's so to them they still kind of like laugh like really like you're a professional now having interviews when they're like that's not really who you are. I'm like it is, but I'm like it's a job. Like I'm still being me, but it's you still have to kind of like recircuit yourself of like how you're going to direct yourself versus like your friends. I'm not going to be like talking crazy like but yeah, it does feel good, especially my best friend. We've been friends for 16, 17 years. He's my best friend, like my brother to me. So, you know, I would always say when I hear him say something good, especially something that I like, it's like, okay, I did it. Even though I would still do it, even though when he made fun of me in the beginning, he now gave me the validation of like, well, how's the show going and how are the things going and what's going on now or whatever. So like it does feel good. It's not a needed validation, but it's a so yeah.
So one of the things you just mentioned, because I want to say, for me, it's like if I do something that I love to do, right? Like I enjoy this. Like I don't get paid per se. I know people send gifts and whatever. I get some support. I get the subscribers and things like that. And the ultimate goal is, I think, is if we just continue to do it and stay consistent and not even consistent in a way where you have to do something every single day, but more so that we're constantly having growth. I personally feel like that's enough for me. And because I love to do it, I enjoy it. So if the money comes, like you said, it's kind of like the icing on the cake. Great.
But what was
But
that saying you told me? Because I actually forgot to write. Because I was even talking about
oh,
like this was an amazing saying because I was beating myself up feeling Ruby, you got to put shit out every day, 3 4 times a day, and I burned out. But you said something to me that
yeah.
I literally was like, the gates of heaven opened up to me. And I'm like, that's
And it's
amazing.
funny because I actually think I haven't shared that. What I shared with you, I don't think I've shared on a live
Oops.
before. No, no. So no, is I'm glad you bringing it up because I share at home all the time. It is actually something that I designed into being a tattoo that I haven't gotten yet, but I hope to soon. But it's actually a lyric from Mike Posner. So I don't remember the song right now, but basically he says growth over consistency. So it's something so simple to me. But like when I first heard it, the very first time I
I
heard it,
agree, goddess.
I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? So it took me some time. I like to process things, and I was like, it's very deep to me. Like it sounds so simple, but it's very deep because I felt like I used to get the advice, especially from successful people, just be consistent, just be consistent, just be consistent.
It's
And
like
I was kind
embedded
of
in our
like, I
brains.
get it, be consistent, but also there's days that I don't feel like doing anything. There's days I don't want to get out of bed, or there's days that I don't want to work out, or there's days that, I just be like, nah, you know what I mean? Like that happens. So on those days, I don't want to be consistent. But that could take a toll on your mental health as well. You're telling yourself you want to be consistent, you can't be consistent. So now you could in most cases, you'll give up. So for
Yep.
me, when I heard that and that album that's on, you could probably Google the lyrics and just put Mike Posner growth over consistency and it'll come up. But I think the fact that his whole album, that album was very mental health driven. Like he's talking about his own mental health. He's talking about at that time that album was actually he recorded it right after he literally walked across America. Like he went from New Jersey all the way to California walking. And he had a whole bunch of issues as he did it, as he, went through it, the ups and downs. But he was saying like it's growth over consistency. So he didn't walk every single day. There were some days where he just couldn't. He actually like got bit by a snake, I think, one day walking through the desert. Like, but every day he would still the goal was still the same, and then he was learning from the mistakes that he was making and he was learning from the people that he met. So all of these things were coming together and it was more like I'm growing still, so I don't have to walk every day. And for me, like as I listened to the album, that one bar or whatever just stuck in my head. And then it became my mantra. Like growth over consistency is more important than consistency. I'd rather grow every day than do the same thing every single day. Like I don't want to have to show up and do this every single day, especially on days that I really can't, or mentally I'm not there. Um, so yeah, that was it. And I feel like now using that mantra and kind of having that always in the back of my mind, um, I'm very happy when I'm doing things that bring me happiness without the monetary aspect of it. So a lot of people that I've observed now at this point that are successful. Now I know some people end up doing things that they don't love, but it brings them money. Um, but I think those are typically jobs, right? When we talk about
Pretty much, yeah.
content creators, like in your case, you saw yourself as a content creator before you were even making the money, which is why probably no matter what, you're going to be successful at this one way or another because
Thank you.
you're willing to do it without the money, without the monetary gain. But that's going to come because you love to do it. And I've worked before doing any of this. I was very big into like life coaching and things like that, and that was something to me that I that was like at the root of everything that I did was let's find what you're passionate about. What gets you excited to get out of bed? Like what is that thing? What is the purpose? Like those two things, passion and purpose. If you put those first before a paycheck, like you're gonna get up every day. You're gonna go out and do whatever it is that gets you excited. So if you could actually find something that you're passionate about and is purposeful, the money will come. And I think just by what you said about having hoping that one person walks away from your live or one person walks away from watching your series and is affected in a positive way, that's enough. That tells me that if you just continue to grow and continue to do what you're doing, you're going to be successful at this. So
Well, I appreciate
you're
that.
nice.
It's funny because when you told me that line, so I have someone that I'm very close to here. He didn't word it that way, but just to kind of like let you know. So kind of what you said about like, oh, you did what you needed to do to get to 1,000.
Right. Oh no, what happened? Uh-oh. Noah's Ark is the song. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cheese. I appreciate it. Did you know the song or did you just look it up for me? I appreciate you if you did look it up. But did you already know the song? I'm very interested to know if you already knew the song. Let me see. Sending the invite, Ruby. Um, you Googled that. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for doing that. Um, you and I can hear you. So for now, we could continue. So I guess I'm gonna just kind of start with a different question because I'm not sure where we left off. So where are you? I know from your page I saw that you were in Texas. Is that where you live? Do you live in Texas?
Yeah, born and
Okay.
raised, San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, born and raised.
Southern girl
Okay.
with a little bit of, fire since I'm Latina.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So that's something that I always I find interesting for more so how people were raised sort of. So if you're raised in the South versus raised in the North or on the West Coast, things like that. That kind of hey, café
Yes,
con leche said
Texas.
Texas. Yeah. So how did growing up in the South, I guess, impact you? Like how did it mold you into who you are today?
Really, my dad. My
Okay.
dad was, I think every girl's like, my dad's the best, but for me, it's in all truth, 100%. Like to me, my dad was the epitome of what a man should be.
Mm,
You know, driven, again, being a minority, being Hispanic, Latin, um, especially in his time, focused on school. And I remember growing up in elementary and, very, very young and like, dang, we don't do anything. Dad goes to work and then dad's in the books. Because my dad was actually finishing another degree as an accountant for the military
wow.
while we were kids. And he had just told us, and I probably was like maybe 6 or 7. And I guess I didn't know that he was kind of already at the end of taking his exam and to get into that next level. And he just said, hard work's going to pay off. I guarantee as much as I have not been around these, because his school was 8 years,
Wow.
after for him to get his higher degree. And so when he did, of course, we lived a great life. We went on vacations every month or every summer. He took my mom's entire family, paid it all, paid it off for 2 weeks every single summer.
Wow.
So he would always say, as a minority, then being a woman, and then also just being a woman of color is every odds are so much more against you.
Right.
So he would embed my two sisters and my brother and said, if you are not going to go to college, you better be a fast learner and you better fake it till you make it in
Mm.
anything that you do. So I did not go to college. I hated school once I was done with high school and like I'm done. So growing up with my dad saying just that to me, I learned how to do hair. I was obviously my parents had me in dance since I was 7 years old. I had my own dance studio at one point. I've also done medical work. I've also done interior decorating, fashion consulting. We're like, if one door closed, I in my head, I'm like, I'm never going to be in the street homeless and never feel like I have to depend on a man, which I have before. I'm guilty of it, but more so now. So growing up with him with that mindset, was just like the epitome of like that tool that I carry till this day. Like because of him, I am who I am. What you see in front of you
Right.
of how I speak and how I carry myself was because of him.
Yeah, I
Where
think
you're a strong-minded
that's
person, but
awesome.
you're educated, and education does not mean book smart. You have drive with you. You're confident. You don't sugarcoat nothing. I'm everything my dad was, but he also had a sense of humor and was very likable.
Right.
So I feel like I don't know, like this growing up with that and that mentality because of him, whether it's from the South or not, but just us being in the South. And I feel like even where I'm at in San Antonio, a friend of mine and me were just discussing this the other day that San Antonio, even though I've been here all my life, I could have left for 20 years and came back. Yes, a few things have grown, but I've always said San Antonio, I think because it's such a massive city, but with a small town feeling, it kept me grounded where I wasn't always on top of like what mainstream was. And kind of again with social media, maybe that's why I'm so behind with certain things. But yeah, I just loved how the upbringing for me was when it came to how he raised my family. So yeah.
I mean, that is, I think, part of or some of what happens when you grow up in the South sometimes is like, because I have family that lives in the South, and I've visited the South before as well, and it always feels like it's not like you're going back in time per se, but like it's a little bit slower. And I actually
Mhm.
lived in Tennessee even for 3 months, and I was in
Hey, San
sales.
Antonio.
I was in sales in Tennessee, right? So I was doing door to door sales in
Which is
Tennessee.
beautiful, Tennessee.
Tennessee is beautiful, but the problem I had is that I'm from New Jersey, and people in New Jersey and New York talk fast. So I'm knocking on doors, people opening up the door because it's Southern hospitality, basically, right? There's like the easiest
Right.
place to get people to open the door. But then as I start talking, they're like, I don't know if it's your accent
You're
or if
not
you're
from
talking too
here.
fast. Yeah, like I don't know what you just said. And a couple of times I thought it was that they were being racist. Even I was like, "What's going on here? Like, why they?" And then I realized I'm like, I need to slow down because when they're talking to me, they're like, "Hello,
Hello, how are you?
what brings you here today?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, so I had to shift away, the way I spoke and kind of slow things down. And then honestly, it helped me be better at sales because there was never a point that I had to repeat myself. I started to slow down, be more, you know, precise in what I was trying to get
I don't
across.
have that in me.
And
And it's
that
so funny
helped.
that you're saying that. I swear to you, this is not even no joke. What you just said right now, my dad would tell me, even though we're from Texas, hey, slow down. What's the rush? And in my head, I'm like, Daddy, I don't got enough time. I got to get out what I need to say right now. You don't know if something's going to
I think
happen.
that's a Latino thing too, is like, people speak faster, when you speak Spanish sometimes or whatever, like that could be it as well. But I had two things, growing up Latino and then also from New Jersey, like we talk fast, like everything's happening in a New York minute. And then it's almost like the further south you go, as you start to go south, the time like moves different, and like people are not in a rush, and it's like take it
Mm-mm.
easy, like just relax, like there's no rush. And I'm like, man, I'm
Well,
trying to
and
get through, like move out the way, like
yeah, and that's funny because everyone that I've ever met, like in person, and that has gotten to know me, so like, are you from Texas? Like, you don't belong in Texas. Like from the way I guess the way I act and my fashion and just my mindset, they're like, you're very New Yorker, maybe
past
even
life.
Californian,
Yeah, yeah, past life
and
you lived in New York.
I, probably. But you know what's so funny? What I laugh being that I'm from Texas is how they still misrepresent Texas. Like I've had people that I've known from New York, Chicago, anywhere away from nowhere, even in even the surroundings of Texas, and they're like, "Oh shit." I was thinking like I'm gonna see tumbleweeds and fucking like horse carriages. Like, no, that was like the 1940s maybe, but
Yeah.
no, we're a city. Like we're not. It's funny how the misconception of Texas still is, oh, we're all like cowgirl, boots and cowgirl hats and saying hee haw. I'm like, no, far from that.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think it's
funny.
funny because a lot of trends and things like that are actually started in Texas as well. That just some people don't realize they're from Texas or Houston or like some of the bigger cities. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of big artists that come out of the South that are trendsetters as well. So I don't think a lot of people realize it sometimes that it's coming from the South. So I could definitely understand that. So I realize you mentioned your dad, and
Mhm.
I always think about, like, for me, I feel like I'm a very perfect blend of my parents. Personally, I think it's because I'm the youngest sibling, and I had to, like, I
Oh
was always,
my.
you too. I
Hmm.
was always observing my oldest. I have two older sisters, and then my parents that I'm like observing, pulling what I always call like the best things from everybody, and then creating who I am today. So I feel like I'm somewhat of a perfect balance between my parents. But you mentioned a lot of what your dad instilled in you. What was the relationship like with mom? Like, what was the molding there? Because and let me just say this too. I have three boys, well, four boys, and my daughter is the youngest. Like, she's a year old, and we're tight. We're like very tight. I feel like she's definitely gonna be a daddy's girl. That's already happening. But I'm as you were saying that the stuff about your dad that got me excited. I'm like, yes, that's how I hope my daughter's gonna be. But
Right.
you hadn't mentioned the relationship with your mom, so I don't know how was it good, bad.
Well, very good observation from one host to another. So my mother and me didn't have the best relationship. Um, and I'll put this out there. I was adopted. So
Okay.
being that I was the fourth child, being adopted, I just always felt there was a disconnect. So fast forward to that. I was just always about my dad. But one thing I will say that I have taken from her as a woman is she was great to my dad. She was dedicated. My dad, she would even tell us, I know a lot of people don't think this way. I don't know if it's more of the Latin, Puerto Rican, Hispanic culture, but my mother would even tell us as kids, your daddy comes before y'all. It's
Mm.
daddy, then it's y'all. And for me, it's still, and she would have a career. My mom, was a hairstylist, and my dad was lucky enough to make the money he did. He got her own salon. That was like one of her anniversary gifts from him. Like, I'm gonna get you your
Wow.
salon. She had no idea. So I'm like, wow, like, can I get a man like that? Hopefully, when I get older. But it was just like, but she still, even though she had a career, she still put my dad first. So like my dad came home to a home cooked meal all the time. His laundry was done, and whatever was done in the bedroom, I'm sure was done too. But it is so to me, I learned like that's how a woman should be. And I know a lot of women now, especially the new generation. I'm all for being an independent woman and be your own CEO and run your shit, but I still feel like because of my age frame, I fall in the middle. Kind of what you did, where I'm like, well, I can have my own shit and I can be my independent woman, but I also want to make sure that whoever I choose to be with and have a relationship with, that person knows that he's also a very vital, important piece of my life too. And I
Right.
feel like a lot of women now are not like that. So I will say I've taken that from her. But my mom was a very heartless woman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the best relationship. I don't wish nothing, ill from her. But yeah, I was more all about my dad. It's
I
crazy.
think
I
I
don't
think
have a
that's
picture
cool
of
though,
my
because
dad.
as I'm hearing you saying it, I think that that's something that could go either way sometimes, right? Like, it could go where you have this type of father and this figure and this person who's so solid, right? Like, it sounded like your dad is a very well-rounded
Oh my
individual,
God, yeah,
and
big
then it
time.
sounds like your mom could have been a very, like, far off, in a sense. Like, that mindset is very, like, nowadays is like, no, no, nobody's gonna agree with. And I don't say nobody, but you know how it is. Like, overall, people are gonna be like, no, you should have your own stuff, and you should put yourself first, then your children, then your man. But I do think that in even now, I do think that being submissive doesn't necessarily mean you're a pushover.
I
But it
agree.
but it's definitely about finding a balance, and that's something like with my girlfriend now, that um she was like, oh, I'm all about being submissive to my man, but there's that but part, and I've always respected that. Like, again, growing up, my mom and my sisters raised me. My dad was a provider, and I love my dad. He taught me a lot. But I've learned a lot from my sisters and my mother, that you know that when I meet a woman that says it's okay to be submissive, but like there's a reason there, like there's something more behind that, and it definitely is. She finds the balance there, and it sounds like that's basically what you've been able to kind of like learn from both sides and apply it to your life.
Not when I was in my 20s. No, because so
That's a
here's
different
a funny
person. That's a
story.
different
So
person.
my mother, yes, my mother was very submissive to my dad. My mom was like, "Dad, my daddy's a queen and dad's the king. Whatever he says goes." Even though, and it's still heard about even in the new generation, happy wife, happy life. Still think it still was that same mentality, but in the long run, it was still like she's being submissive and making him happy because he's given her everything that he should give her as his significant other, right?
Right.
So it was hard for me to balance it in the early ages because I had my sisters. They were a few years older, and they were like, "Oh hell no, he better drive a nice car. He better have this much in his
uh,
bank account." So I battled what my sisters were raising me as like, "Oh, their younger sister," and my mom was, of course, in a different bubble. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm hearing what mom's saying, but I'm like, I'm seeing what my sisters are saying. So it took me a minute to finally be able to go in the middle of both of those. And yes, I do want to have a guy that has not so much material things as I used to think about, but I still want him to be goal oriented. You should never stop wanting goals. I don't care what age you are, period.
Amen. Yes.
So I had to be able to balance those where it was like my dad's side, my mom's side, and then my sister's side. So it was like I was like in the middle of a triangle. Like, what do I take and what do I dismiss? But kind of what you were saying about the whole submissive part. And one thing I've learned is, and I mean, again, agree to disagree. Especially, I know you have some female followers on here and male followers. So I still am a big believer. Maybe I'm being biased because I'm a woman, but it's like at the end of the day, I feel women predominantly run any type of relationship, whether you're boyfriend and
Absolutely.
girlfriend or husband and wife.
Yep.
But kind of to what you're saying, the submissive part. So for me, I've learned to say pretty much it's going to be basically all pretty much like I'm going to run the show for the most part, how I look in a relationship to a certain degree. But I know when to pull back and say, you know what? No, he's a man here. I'm going to be submissive. But in reality, if you ask a lot of women, we're allowing you still to make those decisions because we were pushing ourselves back to be submissive to you. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
Where
it
does
does.
it come
I,
off
I
like
agree.
I'm
I
being
agree with
completely
it. I
controlling?
I literally was just having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I made the comment that I personally prefer working with women sometimes. So here's why though. So I used to be a project manager, and I had my staff was actually pretty balanced. Like I literally might have had three guys working and three girls working for me at one time. And what we did was we tested cell phones. So the 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 step by step is listed there, and then I would give a very brief explanation of what you're supposed to be doing. So okay, you're gonna do X, Y, and Z. Any questions? Nope, I'm good to go. Okay, I'll check back on you in a little bit. Walk away. This is me having a conversation with a man, right? With the women, it would be here's X, Y, Z. Any questions? Yes. What did you mean when you said this? What did you mean when you said that? And I'm like, okay, thank you. Okay, answer all the questions. I'll check back in a little bit, see if everything's good. Hour goes by. I come back. The guys tend to make a bunch of mistakes, and then they're like, "Oh, I thought you said this, or I thought you meant this," and whatever I said, but you never clarified if that's what I meant. You said okay, right? Where I come back and I check the work of the females, and it would be right and it'd be accurate because they asked the questions. Furthermore, is that sometimes in that period where I'm not watching them or doing anything like checking on them, I would get more questions as they went on from the women. They'll be like, "Hey, I got this issue and this came up," and the guys would blow past those things,
I
which are
agree with,
somebody says
I
something.
can't read her name, but where she said that's their pride. I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, that's Mr. Cheese. He said that's the pride. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like men definitely have a pride thing, right? But that behavior transfers into relationships. Like my girlfriend will tell you, actually, she would say that I'm the more emotional person in the relationship. But for me, it's I'm the more evolved. I think of it as more
I
not
agree.
evolved, but I've been in enough relationships, um, and not just relationship like, boyfriend girlfriend, but like business wise and with my parents, with my sisters, like whoever I've come in contact with, to learn that sometimes you have to be a little emotional because this shit is personal. Like all of this life, like these things are personal. So I'm not gonna ignore. I'm not gonna not say what's on my mind. We're gonna have this conversation basically. So I definitely understand
So
finding
wait,
that that in between.
let me stop you right here just to
Yeah.
ask you this before you. So do you think that in that situation that you're explaining, because I agree with Mr. Cheese 100%. That was what I was thinking before he even wrote it. I'm like, it's the pride. But do you think that if it's because you were a man telling other men, but if you were a woman to tell the men, do you think you would have gotten the same reaction, or they would have been like, "Oh, let me listen because it's a woman telling me," not like, "Oh, here's another guy."
Okay. That's a
Kind
good question because the further part of that, what I was talking to somebody about yesterday, was that I personally, like currently in my full-time job right now, both of my bosses, my supervisor and my director, are both females, right? And in the past,
okay,
I've had jobs where my supervisor and my director were men. The one difference that I've noticed in the time that I've worked a lot of different jobs in a lot of different industries. But what I've noticed is sometimes things that I will present as an idea, hey, we should try this out, or maybe we should do this. For the most part, sometimes the men come off as if I'm trying to steal their job, maybe, or it comes off like, okay, that's a good idea. We'll try that out, and then it never comes back up. Where with my female bosses, they've been like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And I think it's sometimes that if you come up with this idea, we win. Like we're gonna win. But if in the other hand was if you come up with this idea, you win, and we're not winning as a team sometimes. So I personally think that that sometimes has been, again in my experience, that's
right.
been the challenge, is like for again possibly a pride thing, on the opposite side of it, like one being the boss versus being the employee, sort of, um that's been my experience. Like it's not as welcome. The new ideas, the fresh ideas, are not as welcome when it's male to male versus me coming to my female supervisor or director, where it's welcome. You know what I mean?
But you can also have the opposite of what you're saying when, because I've been in that situation where obviously my boss has been a female, and when it
Female,
came
female.
off
So
as I'm
female to
like, you
female,
know what,
like,
I need more knowledge about what she was saying or whatever. She's like, same thing you said. I think this bitch is coming for me, and I've gotten fired. And I'm like, wait a minute, I was your right hand woman that was helping you for the position that you were given, even though I knew that I could have done her position, even but I was new to the company at the time. So again, had it been a man guiding her and being her right hand person, I don't think she would have reacted and be like, let me figure a way to fire this girl because she's about to take my job. And I'm like,
right?
I didn't want her job.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So
I
I
mean,
definitely, again, it's those dynamics.
very
It's the
insecure for sure.
Yeah, the power dynamics could definitely cause insecurity. And I think that's just a challenge of us as individuals um to find ways to look past that, to find ways to actually work as a team. And like I said, for me, I go into every job that I'm just going to try to do the best that I can, like be the best employee or supervisor, whatever role that I'm in. Um, I'm
That's
very
how I
big
am too.
on leading from the front. Like if I'm gonna tell you to do something before I ask you to do it, I want you to see me do it. Like I won't. There's nothing that I'm ever gonna ask you to do as a supervisor or boss, whatever, manager, that I'm not willing to do myself. So like I think and me in any leadership position I've ever had, I've never had an issue with people pushing back. One time that I have, and the thing was, the person that was pushing back, they wanted the position that I was in, and I asked when I had the interview, I asked the person that was hiring me. I said, if there's an assistant supervisor already here, like how come that person is not filling this role? Because I was like, maybe they're setting me up, maybe they're gonna give me a whole bunch of work, and I'm gonna hate this job. So I was, I always come into an interview with, you need me as much as I need you. So I'm never like eager to get the job. It's kind of like, let's figure out why
Very
this will work for
smart.
me as well. Yeah, I've learned that early on. That is definitely something my dad told me. He's like, if they're interviewing you, they need you as well. So don't be in there looking like, yes, 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 I'll do it. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll do it. Late nights, weekends,
Oh,
whatever. No, no, like don't do
high
that.
five to that because that is so me.
Like don't do that because you're just gonna end up backing yourself into a corner. So in that case, like
Hmm.
for me, that's how I interview. And they told me like, no, she we had a conversation about the position. She didn't feel like she was ready for the position. Cool. And you know, it's crazy. Like 3 months into having the job, I was going through cabinets, throwing away like old material, like old stuff, and I found a notebook where she hand wrote a letter, kind of like a cover page about being interested in the position. So I don't know when they told me if that's like what the truth was. But down the road, as I started to like see her push back, and a lot of the things that I would ask her to do, she would push back. I asked her eventually, like in a kind of like indirect way, like, hey, so what was different with this position that I'm in now than the person who was here before? Because I wanted to see what her perspective of it. She was like, oh, you have it easier. The person who was here before had to do a lot more of, and then she like listed like these admin things that I no longer had to do. Um, and I think that was the reason why she initially didn't want the job. So what they told me was true, that she didn't
Because there was
want
like
it.
a roster of duties that she had to
Yeah.
do.
And then when I got the job, you know how it is. Like when they fill a new the position, they'll revise things and what didn't work or whatever. They'll make changes. So there were other responsibilities, more programming things that they gave me versus what the other person was doing was more admin stuff. So she didn't want it because it was admin. And now that I had the position and it was more programming, now she felt like she wanted the position. So long story short, with that, she ended up quitting. Didn't end up firing her. Didn't have to do all of that. I continued to be myself. Continued to lead from the front. Nothing that I ever asked her to do. And that was the problem too, is that so many times that I gave her opportunities to, hey, can you do this for me? And I just did it. So it's kind of like you pushing back, but you already know I did it. So you couldn't say no. So eventually she couldn't. She had no legs to stand on. You know what I mean? Like she just basically was like, I'm out of here, and she quit. Um,
Well, she was
but
mad at you.
Right,
You
right,
know what I
right. Yeah,
mean?
and
I
holding
mean,
me,
and
holding something against me that I had no
accountable.
control over, like I didn't have control over that. Like, um, but yeah, so that was like the only time that that ever happened to me, like any type of like pushback or like, animosity or anything like that, which was, again, that was animosity that existed before I even got there. Um, but yeah, so I think,
But you know, when you struck something earlier that I think I can definitely relate to, which is a great thing to personally have, but it's detrimental when it comes to that same mindset of like you're saying that you, no matter what you do, you always want to be great at doing it. You work, and that's the way I've always been. But then you're a threat because either you're a threat to the person that's above you, or you're a threat of someone that's been there as long as you are to say, well, this person probably is going to get an opportunity before I do, or this person has a great chance of taking my job. You
right.
know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah,
like
and
it's a double
there's
sided
definitely a
sword.
hard, it's a hard task to find the balance of making people feel not threatened by you, um, while
Oh, I
also
don't care.
well, see, I don't know, for me, like that's another thing too. Like I don't care about making you feel threatened, but I also want you to feel like we're gonna work together and we're gonna accomplish great things together.
Yes,
You
they do,
know?
Just.
What's that? Facts. People lack the confidence. Yeah, and I think that's what it is too. Like me personally, even with coworkers, like people who are like have annoyed me, or like just I'm like, I still want the best for you. Like I'm still gonna be here when you need it. Like I'm still gonna help you. Like I'm still gonna put in the effort to make sure that you have everything that you need. Again, until the point where like you disrespect me or you disrespect my job or something like that. Other than that, then I'm gonna continue to
Well,
supply.
you're a lot nicer than I am. Okay, because I'm not going to wish you well ill. I'm going to wish you well from a long distance,
Yeah,
but I'm not going to help you
and
get
and
to
you,
a better
but
place.
that's the thing. I gotta say, I wasn't always like this. Like this is more of a now sort of kind of thing. Like not now, but like more in the last few years. Um, but more of it comes from the my spiritual side, in the sense of like knowing karma and understanding that the things that most people do things that they don't even understand that they're doing. They don't understand the effects. They don't, they're doing certain things, even with the ill intentions, when they want to piss you off and they want to make you mad. And even though they're doing that, they don't understand the long term effects of it. Like that it could come off as bullying. It could come off as like, that you're the problem. Like some people
I
internalize it and
well,
it's
you
like,
did say most, so I guess I disagree.
yeah,
I mean, I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Um, that especially depending on the situation.
right.
Okay, like if you're in the same field that I'm in, you know, I'm going to expect you to have either the same drive or knowledge because you came into the company, right? So like my biggest thing, kind of like to kind of touch what you're saying is, besides you already be if you're not in the company, but you go into any company, no company come to work for this company. So I'll give you an example. Like me working at Victoria's Secret, I've been there for 4.5 years. Went into management, realized after a year, I'm not. It was too much for me. But it was more like you came into this company with a shitty attitude, but the company didn't ask, they didn't call for you. You applied for a position because you saw the company was hiring. So for me, kind of when you were saying like I'm a big person with karma, but I've never done anything for karma to come at me. So, like I was
Yeah,
saying,
I
you're
see what you're
really
saying.
a better person in a sense. Because, let's say, for instance, we are working together, and I've been in a situation with this company, working with a bunch of women. I hate to say it, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And it's just a reality of it. A bunch of women working together in a superficial company like Victoria's Secret, you're bound to have a lot of friction,
Yeah.
and it happens. So for me, when I would get girls that I knew had potential, but they had the shittiest attitude, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You're going to get the nice side of me of saying, you know what? Your attitude is really ugly, but if you change your attitude, you can really move up with this company. There's so much possibility in this company. That's the only warning you're going to get from me.
Mm.
Then I'll give you the Tim in the beginning, right? Or the serious in the beginning. But the second time, you're going to get the real talk with Ruby and be like, you know what? I could care less if you stay here. I'm going to do my everything in my power to remove you because I don't like working around negative people. So I'm going to do everything in your power and my power to remove you from this store, this company that I work for, that I feel that you're not doing anything besides bringing the company down
Down,
or the
right.
store down in itself.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to pick and choose,
No,
but
and you know what?
I don't have like in
From
my
that
head like I hope
perspective,
this bitch gets fired.
but from that perspective,
Huh?
it's true and it makes sense. The one thing that I would say, like maybe to add to that, is that I've worked, like I said, I worked in a bunch of different industries. And some jobs I took because the money I knew somebody in that industry. I knew I could do that job, and I heard they get paid well to do it. And I'm like, I could do that with my eyes closed. So I'm gonna go get this job and whatever. And then as I'm there, I'm like, this really isn't for me. But I'm in this field, like I'm in this work or whatever. So I'm pretty sure that I'm sure other people experience that too. They get into a field because the money's good, and then eventually
Oh, that
it,
happens
it
way
turns
too
them
many
into
times
it
too
turns them
often.
into yeah, it turns
Hmm.
them into this cold, you know, hard exterior person that they hate what they do. So it obviously is going to be reflected in their work or their attitude or whatever while they're at work. Um, so again, that's for me. If I'm here, I'm gonna make the best of it. Like I've had physical jobs where I'm like breaking
Yeah,
my back, and then my spin on it would be like, all right, I'm getting paid to work out. Like that would be the way that I could put it in my head that like I'm gonna do this physical
love
work,
that.
and they're gonna
Hmm.
pay me to get this workout in. So like that's just the way I am in the sense of like trying to put a positive spin on something. But plenty of jobs, I guess now, like as I got older, that I'm like, yo, I'm not happy here. I'm out. Like I'm leaving this job. Like I'm gonna go find another job.
Well, if you're lucky that you can say those and have those options, kind of again, like when my being raised my dad, I'm like, I don't need this job. I know I can get a job like this because of my resume. But kind of also to add to what you were saying of, you know, some of the girls that I work with, they hate it. They hate either the position that they're in, but I'm like, you apply for the job. You know, your time's going to go by so much slower when you're sitting here bitching the entire time to say, you know what, let's find something fun. Let's have super conversation. Let's get the job done. Before you know it, you still got paid to be here
Hmm.
and your day went by faster.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't think if people would realize complaining about your job at work, either get off the pot, go get to find another job.
Yeah.
If you don't have that luxury because you don't have any other choice,
Suck it
then
up.
find, like what you said, a positive outlet from it.
Suck it up. Get
You're
the
going to get some
job
free
done.
bras from working here. Shut up.
Get the job done. Um, so I'm glad that we had a very extensive conversation. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
the conversation more so. Like we've taken a lot of different angles and perspectives here. I do want to take, like I said, I do always kind of down toward the end of the interview. I take
Okay.
a few minutes to just kind of turn it over to the chat, see if anybody has anything they want to add to the conversation, maybe, or
Just
ask,
be nice.
be nice, ask any questions, um, and give that a moment, because I know we're a little, the comments are typically a little dope, a little dope, a little delayed. You're dope. This was a good interview. That's to you, I think, and then the interview part was to me. So they said you're
Well,
dope.
thank you. Yes, if
Thank
you
you.
if you can read for me because I
I
can't
got you. I
see that
got you.
writing.
Definitely. Crystal, thank you for that.
Thank
Um,
you, Crystal.
yeah, and I know there was a lot of comments and things that we probably missed, but like I tell everybody all the time, yeah, I knew it was to her. Uh,
I appreciate it.
definitely a great subscriber. That's actually one of the people that you should
I'm
follow back.
following her as well.
And yeah, she's great. She actually does.
Yeah, I followed a
She
few. I
goes
was
on
trying
lot.
to see whatever. I
Oh,
followed
okay,
a
okay.
few of your
Just go back and
nice
check
people
your.
on here
I'm
from
sure
what I
they
can
all
see.
followed you throughout the interview anyway. So go after the interview. Go to your page and just look at whoever followed you while you were here. Crystal is
Sure.
dope. We've met in real life and we're friends with Crystal. Gorgeous Goddess is my girlfriend Jessica, and Mr.
Oh, I
Cheeses.
followed her.
Okay, Mr. Cheese is he's a great
I
great
followed
person.
him.
I actually want to connect you with him too because he's doing some content like graphics and stuff like that for me. So I want to put you in contact with him. Maybe you could use him as well for your graphics and things like that.
Yeah, well,
So
it's funny. So I'm pretty lucky that I have someone that's actually really good that does it, but I'm always
oh,
open
nice.
because I actually ran into somebody else on Facebook that happened to know the person that is my graphic designer right now that I have that's like everything that I put out there. He actually has a TikTok on here too. It's Designs by Harry.
Designs
So
by Harry. Go
he's
follow that
just
page. Shout
yeah,
out to
he's
Harry.
definitely really, really good. Like it's like I will tell him certain things, and then, but I don't. I just like my that's with my vision, just my thoughts, and then he'll put something together. I'm like, I couldn't word it, but that's exactly what I
Yep,
was trying to fucking tell you.
I know
Amazing.
what you mean because that's the same, and maybe that's kind of what happens when you have a good relationship with somebody. Like that's what it is with Mr. Cheese. Like I had to put this on this bottle because when we were talking about it, it says Tim's, and then underneath it says this is my story. Because when he sent me that, I was like, yeah, I gotta put it on something. I'm always drinking water when I'm doing the interviews, so I'm like, I'm gonna put it on a bottle of
New
water.
backdrop.
Yeah, I don't like to promote the if I'm not getting paid to promote something specific. So I'm like, I'm gonna put it on the bottle of water, cover it up. But yeah, so
Uh,
so so I'm
I
gonna
thought you
find a
meant
way.
by him. I'm like, ouch.
No, no, no. I don't. I'm gonna promote him, but I'm not gonna promote the brand of water. I already
You know,
paid them. I already paid them. They ain't pay me. I don't know what's going on with. Um, I don't know what's going on today. Might be my service. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so I want to after it looks like we're good on the comments. I haven't seen too many pop up that we needed to address. But the way I like to end this is that I always like to thank my guests for coming up. Again, I mentioned this earlier. Time is definitely something we don't get back. It's the one commodity that is as much as it's endless, time is endless, but we don't get back the time that we have. So I really appreciate you sharing your time with me. I thank you for being punctual. I thank you for, being a great communicator throughout the process. You've been booked for this episode for some time now. So you actually stuck it out and wrote out all the way to today. So I really appreciate you doing that. I hope that we see more of you between the
most
group of people that
definitely.
what I call our community. Our community is pretty big and is
Yeah, I definitely
growing.
want to go check out.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it
yeah. Check them
Christina,
all out.
your girlfriend, Mr. Cheese, and Jess?
Jesse,
Go check out their
Jessica. Yeah,
pages
Jessica's my
and do some
girlfriend.
support for them.
Yeah, there was the person who shouted out Texas before that was Cafe con Leche. She's in Houston. I'm just kind of looking back to see we have people from all over. So definitely wants you to connect with them as well because I feel like they're going to be a great.
Yeah,
Um,
no, for sure.
G the Beautiful also. These are great people to interact with on here. And that I could kind of say, oh, Awakening Faith is actually my sister. Um, hello. That's my sister.
I'm just following her right now.
She has a dope series on here as well that she does on Wednesdays, and she does something on Mondays as well.
DJ
Reach
Cricket,
out Wednesdays. DJ Cricket, he's a DJ, dope DJ. He does lives as well.
Jeannie.
Um,
Do you
Who's
know
it?
Jeannie?
Jeannie?
I'll follow her
Maybe.
anyway. She was on here.
Um, but yeah, so a bunch of great people that, we all have different days that we go live or like randomly go live, but we all typically jump in each other's lives and show love and support. Janine, she's saying Janine. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Jeannie,
okay.
I'm sorry, I'm
Yes,
saying it
Janine is
wrong. I
definitely, yeah.
follow her anyways.
Yeah, yeah. No problem, no problem. But yeah, Janine definitely also part of the
Oh,
the, the
she says, I
community.
love you for me.
So yeah, so I'm glad they got to see you today. I'm glad you got to kind of follow
Yeah.
them, and there's
I'll
a
be honest.
possibility
I
of
was
future
I was
connections.
contemplating doing this. I will be very honest again. I'm real all the time, but I'm glad I did. I'm really glad because I was just like, I was talking to this other girl that's an influencer, and I said, she's like, you need to start putting yourself out there with other people and let them see what you're about. And all
Right. Yeah. Yep.
she's like, no, what all that we're trying to do is it's in reality we're self marketing each other.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's actually was more enjoyable than I had expectations for, which I go in life as I get older and have no expectations so that you actually end up on top anyways. So thank you for inviting me, finding me and inviting me. I've enjoyed it. I would love to come back again in the next season
Yes,
and
for
speak
sure.
about some
Now,
other things.
hey, man, look, the community
And
is
then
gonna hold you
the hang
accountable.
of this,
Also,
yeah, for
we
sure.
want to see
And
you.
then
We
once we
want to
get the
see it
hang
on
of
here.
this, I want to bring you in here for an episode of Real Talk with Ruby for sure.
Yeah. You already know I'm
But yeah,
there.
I thank you so much for the opportunity of coming out here, and the people that followed you have been extremely nice, and I appreciate. I hope I get to know them a little bit better as well, and
Yeah,
I'll
they're
definitely go
they're all
support
saying
them
you
as
did an
well too.
amazing job. So they're all saying you did really good,
Well, thank
and
you.
that your number one follower, I followed him as well, Jarek. So yeah, so
Yes.
we'll definitely continue the conversation. And once you kick off Real Talk with Ruby here, I'll be a guest as well, and we'll continue to grow the network and share the space
So I will
that we
leave you
do.
and your amazing viewers with my quote that I
Thanks
have
for showing
started
love.
using maybe almost a year ago. And I always leave every episode, and it's in some of my videos, is love yourself, love one another, and let the positivity and laughter continue to flow.
That.
Bye.
Yay. I'm gonna clap that up. I love that. Well, thank you again. Thank you everybody. Shout out to the subscribers. I'm gonna just leave you guys off
Thank
with
you,
my link
Jess.
tree. This episode, if you missed any of it, will be on YouTube tomorrow. So you could go to YouTube and check it out. My YouTube is in the link is in my bio, as well as my Amazon supporters wish list is in there, and also my Cash App. And obviously, nothing is ever expected, but everything is greatly appreciated. So thank you, everyone. Ruby, truly an honor. This was an amazing interview. Thank you so much. To everybody else, till next time, peace.